back to Insight. We are joined now by David McComb, co-owner of D.O. McComb & Sons Funeral Homes. Thank you so much for joining us, David. We're going to talk today about traditional funerals versus cremation. Cremation has gained popularity in recent years. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. In the last 20 years, it's probably doubled, even close to tripled in the last 20 years.
Really? And what would you say is the reason for that? Or is there a reason for that?
Well, there's a number of reasons for it. One of them is price. When you have a burial, there's a number of different things associated with the burial. That's the cost of the grave space, the cost of the opening and closing, and there's probably some other fees associated with that. And with cremation, there's the fee for cremation. And then there could be an urn involved if you want to have an urn or a niche. And also cremated bodies are also buried. So it depends upon choice. But overall, it would be less expensive to be cremated versus to be buried.
And now we have here in Fort Wayne the D.O. McComb & Sons Tribute Center.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about that. It's such a beautiful facility. I was just saying, my husband and I were recently at Lindenwood. Right across the street is the Tribute Center.
Right.
Tell us what happens at the Tribute Center and why it's such an asset to the community.
Well, there's a couple different things that happen there. It's kind of a multi-purpose building. We have the building primarily as a cremation center, and we call it the Tribute Center. And then secondarily, there is a reception area there where somebody can have a reception after the cremation service is over. So our traditional funeral homes are all around Fort Wayne, and people have funerals there, as they normally do. And since there's such an honor of being pallbearers, we wanted to make sure we kept the history and the ceremonial part of having pallbearers and funeral processions, because we've been having funeral processions, for thousands of years, and we didn't want to stop that. So now we go in procession from the funeral home to the Tribute Center, and then we have a committal service there, and then it can be followed by having a meal. And of course, food is a comfort item, and when people lose somebody in their lives, they like to have food, and so that is available to them. And it's a beautiful area. It looks very much like a restaurant, and we're just really thrilled to be able to do it.
I was saying to you, my husband tells me all the time, he reminds me all the time that should he go first, he wants to be cremated. That only gives me pause when I think, I don't want to lose that the ceremony of having a traditional funeral. But when you describe it in the way that you just did, I can take comfort in knowing that you don't have to lose any of that ceremony. So that's a lovely thing to know.
That's right. All these things can be prearranged, and it's a good idea to prearrange services in advance, pretty much regardless of your age. As soon as you have the obligation of a job and a family and so forth, you need to be thinking along that lines. You have a will, funeral arrangements, what's a will for? A will's for when you die. So, when you have funeral planning, that just kind of completes that process. And, and as you astutely pointed out, cremation and burial are synonymous. It's not funeral cremation, it's a burial and cremation. So everything that happens before even a burial or a cremation can be exactly the same. And it should be exactly the same, because where would you like to have your next of kin, your loved one, when you die, other than in a room full of people that love them? And so that's what we want. And so a lot of guys go out there and they say, I don't care what you do with me, just do whatever. And but what we need to really focus on in the prearrangements is planning the funeral for those that are left behind.
That really takes the pressure off of those that are left behind. You guys have been here in our area for a very long time, since 1925.
Yes.
Just quickly talk about what that means when you're planning your funeral, the fact that you've been a part of our community for so long.
Well, in today's world, I think we're lacking a little bit of accountability. We live in kind of a pass-the-buck society today, and the local accountability is here in Fort Wayne with my brother Doug and I. If anything is on a funeral that is right or wrong, we know about it first. And with other funeral homes that have sold out to our corporate people in the United States, the accountability is there. It's somewhere out of the area. And so the feedback mechanism here is right here. And so if there needs to be correction made on our part, we can make it immediately.
It is so important that you are here in our community, and you live here and you've been here for a long time. So if you are in need of their services, if you're ready to pre-plan your funeral services, you can give D.O. McComb & Sons a call or visit their website, McCombsons.com. We'll be right back on Insight.